Now, about a year ago, we got our very first glimpse at Duet Night Abyss, an upcoming free-to-play anime-styled RPG developed by Pan Studio and Hero Games. Now, if you're a fan of Warframe or Genshin Impact, then this one might have caught your attention, or any kind of gacha game, that is. It's like a blend of the two, with fast-paced combat, fluid parkour movement, and of course character customization and character, acquisition as well. So the game looks like it combines Genshin's art style with the movement, the crafting, and of course the modding systems that you would expect to find in Warframe. You've got bullet jumping, which they call helix leaping. You've got wall running or hopping, and of course characters that function or have abilities a lot like Warframe's Mesa, Titania, Excalibur, and so on. And you have a modding system with polarities and of course capacity cost. Now, my community is predominantly Warframe, which is why I'm going to make those comparisons. It just makes it easier for viewers to understand. Now, we're still unsure as to what form of gacha, if any, Duet Night Abyss will have, but it's definitely free to play, with a technical test coming very soon, and likely a beta, either closed or open, to follow. Now, recently at the Tokyo Game Show, Duet Night Abyss showcased more of its gameplay, including combat, a high-level boss fight, level 60, which is on screen right now. They showed their movement mechanics, they showed their weapon crafting, and their upgrade or modding system, which they're calling Demon Wedges. The characters that you control in Duet Night Abyss can equip both a melee weapon and a ranged weapon, and they can switch between both mid-combat, like a bow and a scythe, or a laser rifle and a sword, and so on. You can summon 2 additional characters from your roster of characters that you've acquired in order to help you in any battle, so that you've got a squad of 3. Those 2 characters or those 2 companions will be AI controlled, and they will fight on their own. Now, the game's movement looks fast-paced action with helix leaps, double jumps, aerial combat, slam attacks, and dodge mechanics in order to avoid incoming attacks. So basically, the movement is very, and I mean very, very similar to what you can expect in Warframe. For its main combat loop, it looks like it revolves around chaining attacks and skills in order to build up a combo. Building up a higher combo and then releasing a charged attack will deal more damage. So the bigger your combo, more damage you can throw out. You can equip any melee weapon or any ranged weapon on any character, so they're interchangeable, with each offering unique passive abilities, basically allowing you to build and personalize to your own playstyle. Certain characters might work better with certain weapons because of that weapon's passive. Characters will have 3 skills, 2 active skills and 1 passive. Skills are then fueled by a resource called Sanity, which is basically energy or mana, which replenishes during combat, and abilities have no cooldowns. You just have to manage your sanity levels. Now, it's not an open world game, or at least it doesn't look like one, not on the scale, I guess, of what Genshin is or Wuthering Waves or one of those. It looks more like it is in terms of Warframe, where it's a large scale instance area with linear progression. But they did show off what looked like a defense mission during the Tokyo Game Show event. Now, in terms of character progression or upgrades, like I said, they have a system called Demon Wedges, which is basically very similar to Warframe's modding system. These are equipable upgrades for each character and weapon, boosting stats like your sanity, like your power levels, like your skill efficiency, and so on. You will need, however, to balance these with what they're calling a tolerance bar, which limits how many upgrades that you can equip. Again, to compare this to Warframe, it is a capacity cost. Each Demon Wedge has a capacity cost. They also have a polarity, and matching the polarities of the Demon Wedge to the polarity on the character or the weapon, of course, will reduce its cost or reduce its tolerance, I guess, to the bar. Loadouts, you're going to be able to create multiple different loadouts for your characters and your weapons in order to share the Demon Wedges across each one. I think on the Tokyo Game Show it showed, 3 different loadout options that you could use, so config A, B, and C. Now, crafting your weapons in Duet Night Abyss is going to be very similar to what you would expect in other games, where you're going to have to fight bosses in order to gather the resources, whether it's the blade or the weapon, the handle, the hilt, and so on. Then you're going to have to go to the blacksmith and actually craft that weapon, and that weapon will have a real world timer to it. I think the one they showed off in the Tokyo Game Show showed that it took 3 hours in order for that weapon to craft, but he did skip it with real money. So that's at least one microtransaction that we know of. You're going to be able to skip those build timers. Now, the boss battle that they showed off during the Tokyo Game Show event was something called a Nocturnal Echoes mode, where you're going to get those special materials and blueprints. Now, whether these are a weekly thing or a daily thing, I'm not entirely sure. I think most gacha games have them as a weekly thing. But the fight itself was against a level 60 boss, whereas the character was level 80, and he did take a lot of damage, and it did look like maybe he wasn't going to be able to kill it because it was quite powerful, or quite spongy at least. It looked like it took a lot of damage and it took a while for him to kill it. Now, here's what I took away from what they've shown off at the Tokyo Game Show and what I've looked up about the game since the last 12 months when I've made that first video. Its combat does look good, but maybe that's just because it is very similar to Warframe. However, it does look like it's lacking punch, or at least impact on those melee hits. Crafting is similar to Warframe in that you need to farm weapon parts off bosses and then go and build them, and then they have a build timer attached to them, which I'm okay with since it's only 3 hours and not 12 or 24. Skipping the build timers is also like Warframe, and it is a free-to-play game, so they've got to generate revenue somehow to keep the game alive. Now, the game's movement is literally just Warframe's. Like, it is a one-to-one copy, almost as if they've just completely taken the code. And I can understand a game wanting to mimic another game's systems because that system is successful, like what the First Descendant did with their game, and I guess the modding system out of Warframe as well, and what this is doing with the modding system from Warframe. But Warframe's bullet jumping is signature to their game, and these have just straight up copy-pasted it. There's no denying it whatsoever. Now, the gacha aspect hasn't been shown or spoken about yet. If it has one, we're all assuming it has one, but they haven't confirmed it, but it does look like that type of game. Maybe the boss fights are weekly summons, similar to other gacha games, and maybe some bosses will have character pulls or weapons attached to them with random chance of pulling those for real money. Again, we don't know. We know that some of the characters are more than likely tied to the game's story-related content, and you're going to be able to get them simply by playing it. But if it is a gacha game, then it's going to have similar mechanics to Genshin or Withering Waves and so on, where the initial start to that game is going to be very generous with drops, but as more content gets added into the game, then the pulls are going to become less and less generous because they've got their claws in you. But let me know in the comment section below what you think of Duet Night Abyss, of its similarities. If it's a game you're going to look into or not look into, I'm genuinely just going to keep an eye on it and see how it plays out with the technical tests and its beta. But if nothing else, it's competition, and competition breeds success. We've already seen what has happened with the First Descendant and the impact that it has had on Warframe's community growing, and some quality of life changes that Warframe has had as, I guess, inspiration maybe taken from the First Descendant, or maybe not. But either way, it's going to be free to play, and it is worth at least maybe just keeping an eye on. If you found this video helpful in any way, by all means hit that like button, or don't if you didn't find it helpful. Have a great day, have a great week, and as always, thanks for watching.